Hello students, this is Akshita, your educator. I welcome you all on the platform of Global Online. Students, for your upcoming CTET December 2023 examination, we have come up with a series where we'll be discussing the syllabus of mathematics for paper 1 and paper 2. In today's session number 21, we'll be talking about the topic named as ratio and proportion. So along with the concepts, we'll be practicing lots of MCQs that can be directly asked in your examination. At the same time, students, if you're targeting for the CTET December 2023 examination, for paper 1 and paper 2, a complete course has been launched by Global Online platform with the following features. Full syllabus video lectures will be provided to you. So through these video lectures, you can clear all your doubts, your concepts. Along with these students, lots of tips and tricks will be shared by the respective educators so that you will solve the question paper with great accuracy and lots of confidence. At the same time, you'll be provided with the full syllabus notes. Through this notes, you can cover your whole syllabus. Okay. At the same time, these are exam relevant notes and going to help you a lot more easily downloaded through your mobile phone as well. At the same time, 50 plus mock tests are also provided. These mock tests are going to test your complete preparation. At the same time, the question asked in the mock test can be directly replicated in the examination as well. Hence, this is an important feature throughout your preparation. This is going to help you a lot. Full syllabus MCQ PDF will be provided again, which is easily downloaded through your mobile phone. The course fees for all the above features for paper 1 plus paper 2 is 3000 rupees only. If you're targeting for the individual paper, that is paper 1 or paper 2, the course fees is going to be 2000 rupees for each. You just have to contact us on this given WhatsApp number for the enrollment of course, or download the Global Online application for further more details. You can contact us by WhatsApp. Okay, so thank you, and let's start up with the questions. Before that, students, few topics were left, or the few terminologies and points were left that we'll discuss in today's lecture. Then we'll begin up with the questions. The very first key point to be remembered over here is the ratio should exist between the quantities of the same kind. In case of ratio, we are actually comparing the quantities, right? So whenever we are comparing the quantities, I have already mentioned you in the measurement topic as well, that always they should be of the same nature, they should be of the same kind. Okay, and whatever the things you are comparing in case of ratio, or two things whichever we are comparing, should be similar unit, should be of similar unit. Okay, so whatever in measurement also I have told you always that whatever the units, whatever the values you are comparing, or whatever the two things you are comparing, the units of that two values thing should be always mandatorily similar. Okay, moving on to the next point, there should be significant order of terms. The comparison of two ratios can be performed if the ratios are equivalent, like the fractions, which I have already discussed in detail yesterday's lecture. Okay, the proportion can be classified into the following categories such as direct proportion, inverse proportion, and the continued proportion. So what is direct proportion? Direct proportion describes the relation between the two quantities in which one quantity is going to increase and the other quantity as a resultant is going to decrease. It means, for example, if I told you that there are two quantities A and B. So if if we increase the quantity of A, then naturally the quantity of the B is also going to decrease, or automatically the quantity of B is going to decrease. So such type of relationship among the two things or two values A and B is said to be the inverse proportion relation. This is said to be the inverse proportion relation. And if the quantity A is increased, and if I'm increasing the quantity A, and due to this resultant the B quantity is also increasing automatically, such type of relation between the two values are considered to be the direct proportional values. Okay, the relation is called as direct proportion, and this is called as the inverse proportion. I hope you have got it. So make a note of it that the direct proportion describes the relation among the two quantities or between the two quantities in which the increase in one quantity, there is an increase in the other quantity as well. One quantity is increased, the other quantity will also get increased. But in case of the inverse proportion, it describes the relation between the two quantities in which if one quantity is increased, it's lead to the decrement or the decrease of the other quantity. Okay, so this is called as inverse proportion. So inverse proportional is represented as A is inversely proportional to B. Okay, and direct proportion is represented as A is directly proportional to B. These are some of the basic terms. Okay, now what is continued proportion? Let us discuss this in detail because such types of questions on these concepts can be asked. So let us consider two ratios for explanation of continued proportion. One ratio is A is to B and the other ratio is, for example, C is to D. Then in order to find the continued proportion of this given two ratios over here, we need to convert the mean to a single term or a number. This would in general be the LCM of the means. Okay, means, what does it mean? Now look here, if I have to find the continued proportion of the ratio A by B and C by D, what I will do, I'll actually take the LCM, that is I'll take here the LCM of B and C. Okay, that is equal to BC. So what I'll do here is multiply the first ratio by C, okay, and multiply the second ratio by B. Okay, after multiplying, what I will get? AC upon B, and after multiplication I'll get CB upon D, right? So the first ratio is AC by BC. Not actually here I have to take into consideration one thing. If I'm multiplying the numerator with C, then the law is I have to multiply the denominator with also C. Similarly, the rule is if I'm multiplying the numerator with B, I have to multiply the denominator also with B. So I'll get here BC as well as a DB. Okay, so from this we can clearly say that the first ratio is CA upon BC and the second ratio is BC upon BD. Thus the continued ratio is going to be AC is to BC is to DB. Okay, CB or BC is one and the same. This is one and the same. Okay, so this is said to be the continued proportion. This is said to be continued proportion. That is, the denominator in case of the first ratio is the numerator of the second ratio over here, right? So this is said to be the continued proportion. Okay, once again I'd like to elaborate these things. That is, if we have two ratios, one is A is to B, the second one is B is to C, this can be represented as A by B and this can be represented as B by C. We actually have to make the denominator same. To make the denominator same, I'll multiply here with C and here with C. Okay, and in the second ratio I'll multiply the numerator and the denominator with B. Something went wrong, let me check it. It is C by D, I guess. A by B and C by, yes. So this is actually BC into C. I'm actually multiplying again with C only. Okay, so I'll get AC upon BC is equal to BC upon BD. Here is not a C, actually it is D. Okay, BD. Okay, so this will give me the value, this is equal to CD, not BC. Something went wrong, actually this is CD. Okay, so I'm multiplying here with B. I'll get CB upon BD. Now it is correct. Now this is correct. Okay, so this will give me AC upon BC, BC upon BD. So here the denominator from the first ratio is similar to the numerator on the second ratio. So such type of ratios, AC, BC and BD, this can be written in this form, and this is nothing but this is called as continued proportion. This is called as continued proportion. I hope you have got this. Okay, moving on to now a few terms that I have already explained you. What is the direct proportion? It describes the relationship between the two quantities in which increase in one quantity leads to the increment in the other quantity as well. Okay, so similarly, if one quantity decreases, the other quantity is also going to decrease. Hence, if A and B are the two quantities, then the direct proportion is represented as A is directly proportional to B. Similarly, in case of the inverse proportion describes the relation between the two quantities again, and increase in one quantity is leading to decrease in the other quantity, and if the decrease in one quantity, then there is an increment in the other quantity. So such type of relation is the inverse proportion, and the quantities, for example, A and B can be represented as A is inversely proportional to B. Continued proportion I have already explained you can just go through the slide once. Let us consider the two ratios, that is A by B and C by D. So through this ratio, in order to find the continued proportion for the two given ratio, we need to convert actually the means to a single term or a number. It means we actually have to make the denominator same, or we can say one term from both the ratios should be same. So to make that, in general, I have actually taken the LCM of B and C, that is BC. Okay, so multiply the first ratio with C and the second by B. Okay, if we've multiplied the first ratio, that is A by B into C, okay, and the second ratio C by D by B, we will get the values CB similar in both the sides. Okay, so the first ratio will be CA by BC, second ratio will be BC by BD. So this is going to give us the continued proportion, which can be written in this particular form. Some of the important properties of the proportions I have mentioned here. Let us go through these one by one. What is addendum, what is subtractendo, dividendo, componendo, alternando, invertendo, componendo, and dividendo, because based on this directly questions can be asked. Now let us consider, if we are considering for the first property over here, that is addendum. Addendum, the word itself describes that we are actually adding few terms here. Like there are two ratios. If we consider A upon B, or A is to B is equal to C is to D. Okay, such a type of ratios, I have already told you, when two ratios are equal, they are said to be in proportion. So there are certain properties of proportion as well. So there, if I take the two ratios over here, that is A is to B is equal to C is to D, then A plus C is to B plus D is the addendum. It means we are actually adding. If we look at the ratio carefully, we will get we are actually adding the numerators of both the ratio and the denominators of both the ratio, that is A plus C divided by B plus D is the property of addendum. I hope you have got it. Okay, we are actually adding the numerators of two different ratios which are said to be in proportion. Okay, moving on to the subtractendo. What is subtractendo? Subtractendo, it means if we have two ratios, that is A upon B is equal to C upon D, and they are said to be in proportion, then we are actually subtracting the numerators of both and denominators of the both respectively, that is A minus C upon B minus D is the subtractendo of the two given ratios. Now moving on for the dividendo, if we have two ratios, that is A upon B is equal to C upon D, for that what are we going to do actually here is, we are actually subtracting the denominator from the numerator of a one respective ratio. That is, look here, A minus B by B is equal to C minus D by D. The denominator is going to remain the same. In case of dividendo, the denominator is going to remain the same, but in case of numerator, we are actually making a change by subtracting the denominator with the numerator. That is, A minus B by B is equal to C minus D by D. Okay, what is now componendo? Let's move on to the next property, that is called as componendo. So if we have two ratios, that is A upon B is equal to C upon D, then what does componendo property says? A plus B upon B is equal to C plus D upon D. In case of dividendo, we have actually subtracted the denominator with the numerator, but in case of componendo, what are we going to do? We are actually going to add the denominator with the numerator, that is A plus B and C plus D, and keeping the denominator as it is, B and D. Okay, so A plus B upon B is equal to C plus D upon D is the important property of the componendo, which is the property of proportion. Okay, moving on to the next property, this is alternando. Please try to understand everything in detail, because this is very much important exam point of view. If we have again two ratios, AB is equal to C by D. So here, what does alternando says? Alternando says that we can actually alter the denominator with the numerator of two different ratios. It means A upon C is equal to B upon D. The denominator of the first ratio is now the numerator of the second. The numerator of the first ratio is now the denominator of the first. Such a property of the proportion is called as alternando, where we are actually altering the numerator and the denominator values. Alternando. Okay, alternando is done. Now moving on to the invertendo. Invertendo, what does it says? Inversion, it means what? Now if we have two ratios, a upon b is equal to c upon d, so here we are actually inverting the values. It means the numerator will become denominator, denominator will become numerator, that is b upon a is equal to d upon c. This is nothing but this is called as the property of invertendo, where we are actually inverting the values. Okay, the last but not the least, componendo and the dividendo, where we are actually clubbing up the componendo and dividendo properties. That is, if we are having two ratios, a upon b is equal to c upon d, then the value a plus b divided by a minus b is equal to c plus d upon c minus d, where we are actually clubbing the componendo and dividendo properties. Please go through these properties in detail. Questions can be asked. Okay, they will give you two ratios, so they will ask you that apply the componendo, apply the dividendo, या फिर they'll ask you apply the componendo and dividendo properties of proportion on this particular ratios given over here. Okay, so yes, that's it. Now this is again an important proportional, that is fourth, third, or the mean proportional. So if they are telling you that we have two ratios, okay, that is a upon b, another one is c upon d, and they are said to be in proportion, it means they are equal. So here the d is called as, the d over here is called as the fourth proportional. Try to understand, a is to b is equal to c is to d. A is called as the first proportional, okay, the b is called as second proportional, the c is called as the third proportional, and this is called as the fourth proportional. So given from this, d is the fourth proportional to abc, c is the third proportional to a and b. Now what is the mean proportional between a and b? Mean proportional is nothing but a is to b is equal to c is to d. So the mean proportional can be written as under root of ab, that is the first and second. This is called as the mean proportional, and question based upon this can be directly asked students. So this is again very much important. Okay, so these were the few concepts that I wanted to tell you. So this is the question that I give you as a homework. The ratio and proportion example number 1. Are the ratios 4 by 5 and 8 by 10 said to be in proportion or not? Question number 1. Question number 2 is for the homework is, are the two ratio 8 by 10 and 7 by 10 in proportion? Okay, and the third question is, given ratios are a by b, b by c, and c by d's ratios values are given, you have to find the value of a, b, c. So this is important question. So how to find it out? You have to try to go through it. If you are not able, tomorrow I'll be teaching you an uniform ratio concept, which is important, okay, exam point of view. So from that you can be easily able to solve it. Okay, so this was the end of the session, students. Tomorrow we'll be taking some few more examples of ratio and proportion and few concepts. So that will be the end of the ratio and proportion topic. So thank you for joining the session. I hope you have liked the video. If you have liked the video, please hit the like button and let me know in the comment section. And thank you for joining the session. Have a great day everyone. Bye.